Motivation follows meaning, right? If we have a reason to do something, then we're going to feel motivated. If you're just like, yeah, I really probably should clean up that room, you're probably not like why? Yeah, I can wait. It's really easy to push it off if there's no reason behind it. But if you are thinking, I want to clean up this spare room so that I can, have a little oasis, and you imagine yourself reading in there or doing yoga or playing music or whatever it is, all of a sudden, ooh, it gets exciting and you want to make it happen.
You are listening to the Decluttering Club Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Mueller, and it's my mission to equip women to declutter their homes, their time, and their lives so that they have energy for what matters most.
In today's podcast, we're going to talk about that little thing that everybody is looking for. It's like the magic bullet. It's like the secret weapon that everybody wants when they start to declutter. And here's what it is. It is called motivation. Now, it's such an interesting thing that happens because people are like, I know I need to declutter. I know that I should declutter, but I just don't feel like it. And if we don't feel like doing something, for most of us, we just don't do it. And this becomes a problem because we know we want to do the thing. We know that we should do the thing, but we don't feel like it. And when we say, I don't feel like doing it, what we're really saying is, I am not motivated to do something. So that's what we're going to talk about today, because this is a huge hurdle. It's a huge obstacle that people in our community face. And I have some ways for you to generate your own motivation. And then I have some thoughts about motivation, and maybe it's not necessarily required to get some things done. Are you ready? I have 9 ways that you can get yourself motivated to declutter. 9 different ways. So this is pretty cool because you can mix and match. And maybe if you use 1 or 2 or 3 of these, you're going to start feeling like it when you declutter. And when we feel like doing something, when we want to do something, when we're motivated, it is so much easier. It's like at least 100 times easier. And that is a factual number. Not really. But when we feel like doing things, it's just that much easier to get busy, to get up off the couch and to do those things that we know we want to do. So what does this look like? The first technique, the first idea that I want to offer you is something that you're probably very, very familiar with, and that is deadlines. Okay, deadlines, and it could be an internal deadline or it could be an external deadline. What do I mean by this? An external deadline is something like somebody is coming to your house. You're having company over, or maybe you're moving, so you know you need to declutter before you move. Or someone's coming to stay, or somebody's coming over. Those are like all deadlines. And those are incredibly motivating because we've got a deadline that we cannot move, right? It's outside of us. We can't just be like, I changed my mind. I mean, we can, but it's really like we're very motivated to not push external deadlines. We are frequently, as human beings, we tend to be more willing to let ourselves down than we are in letting other people down. So if you tell someone they can come and stay with you, you're probably not going to call them up and go, I changed my mind. Change your mind, you can't come. That doesn't happen. However, if we say to ourselves, I'm going to get this basement decluttered, by whatever date, it is much easier to bail on yourself and to push that deadline out or just to ignore it completely. So an external deadline can be very, very effective if you want to get some things done, right? There are other external circumstances that may help you to find motivation to declutter. And this can look like things like maybe you have a flood, right? God forbid your basement floods. And all of a sudden, all of the stuff in your basement is wet. Some of it is damaged or ruined. And you don't want that damage, you don't want that mold or whatever to spread to the other things in the basement. Well, you better believe you're going to find yourself incredibly motivated to work on that, right? And now it's temporary, but it will be there for a while, right? Another set of external circumstances that a lot of people have faced, and through no fault of their own, is something like, maybe ants, right? I woke up one morning the other day and I had ants in my kitchen. And they were crawling along the windowsill, and I was like, oh my gosh. Well, if you are anything like me, when you find any kind of pest, ants, or maybe it's a mouse or something like that in your house, all of a sudden you are motivated to go through that pantry or that kitchen and to clean things up, because we don't want that stuff, like crawling around. Absolutely not. So motivation will show up like very reliably. In fact, this is a technique that some people tend to use, especially with their children. And I don't necessarily recommend this, but you might find it a useful tool. And it's to take like little grains of rice, and you can get black rice, and you kind of sprinkle them. If you have like a very messy room that you'd love to have someone clean up, kid's bedroom, for instance, sprinkle a little black rice and then tell your kid that you discovered mouse droppings in their room, because like this kind of rice looks a lot like mouse droppings. Oh my gosh. That will be motivating for that person. Like I said, not necessarily recommended, but it is a technique that some people use, right? And it is effective, right? Nobody wants to have pests in their house. So when we discover that kind of thing, we're like, oh, we got to clean this out. And, it doesn't mean that you love, let's say, throwing away food. But, if you've discovered that the ants got into your sugar, then I'm sure no one is tempted to save that and to pick the ants out. We just don't do that. So it will get you over the hump. Right? External circumstances, highly motivating, although we don't love them, do we? It's a very negative circumstance. My next technique is way more positive, all right? And it is to think about what you want to do and why. What you want to do and why, right? A lot of us are afraid to dream about these kinds of things because we think, well, if I dream about it and then I don't get there, it's going to be too painful. But what I want to tell you is that may be the case in the past, right? Maybe you did let yourself down or you didn't get what you wanted. It was very, very painful. But what you can do this time around is you can say, you know what? That was all learning. I didn't reach my goal. I tried something out and then I didn't reach it. But you know what? I'm that much closer now. I know more about how to do this thing. I know what not to do. And so I'm that much more likely to reach my goal this time around, right? And when we start thinking about what it is we want, we can get really excited. So it's like maybe you want to clean out that extra room because you want to have a craft room or a reading room, or you want to have a spare bedroom so that you can host guests. You start thinking about that and you paint a really vivid picture in your mind, you're going to get excited. David Hawkins, he's an author that I really like reading. He says, motivation follows meaning. Right? If we have a reason to do something, then we're going to feel motivated. If you're just like, yeah, I really probably should clean up that room, you're probably not like why? Yeah, I can wait. It's really easy to push it off if there's no reason behind it. But if you are thinking, I want to clean up this spare room so that I can, have a little oasis, and you imagine yourself reading in there or doing yoga or playing music or whatever it is, all of a sudden, ooh, it gets exciting and you want to make it happen. That's a really powerful way that you can motivate yourself, is just to figure out what do you want to do? What does it look like really, really specifically, and why? What are you going to do with that space or with that, that space that you've freed up? Number 3. All right. This one is so fun. I love this so much. And this is one that really kind of surprised me, but it works really, really well in our communities. And it is to declutter with friends. When you're going to be decluttering, and for the way that it works with us is it's usually on a Zoom call, or maybe it's, sharing your results in a Facebook group. If you know that your friends are going to be there, they're going to be doing similar things. They're going to be looking for your results. They're going to be waiting to hear, did you do it? Did you open that box? Did you go through those papers? Did you try on those clothes? If you know your friends are waiting for you, or not even friends, if you just know that there are others in the community that are going to celebrate your progress with you, all of a sudden, what was like kind of a dreaded chore turns into a social activity. And we as human beings, we're social. We're social creatures. We love doing things together in groups, especially groups of people that appreciate each other. And so you can be motivated because you're like, I want to have something to share. I want to tell the others. I want to get those congratulations and the pats on the back. That feels amazing, and we will work for that. That's a really, really powerful way to motivate yourself to declutter. Just plan on doing it with friends. The next one, number 4, is to declutter and take before and after photos. So often when we're decluttering, if it's a longer process, you're not going to notice the day-to-day differences, right? If you take out a box a day, it's like, yeah, it's kind of, things are looking different, but it takes too long to see the effect, right? But when you have a before picture at the very beginning, when everything is a hot mess, and then you take after pictures when everything is done, and you can compare the two, that is incredibly motivating. It's a lot of fun too, right? So you can track your progress and you can just appreciate what you have done. And so if you have, let's say, done a closet or a drawer or a corner or whatever, and you have the before and afters, you can look at those before you start your next project. Or if you're having a hard time, right? If you're kind of in the middle of a project and you're like, I really could use a pick-me-up here, go back and look at your before and afters. And you'll be like, oh my gosh, I forgot how good it felt. Yes, I want that with this next space. And you will be motivated to continue and to push through. All right, the next one kind of goes hand in hand with the photos, and it is to track your progress. So this can look lots of different ways. Some people track how many 10-minute decluttering sessions they do, right? So they're like, okay, I did 2 10-minute sessions today. I did 3 yesterday, and by the end of the month, maybe you have done 30 10-minute sessions or 60 10-minute sessions, right? That's 600 minutes. That's a lot of decluttering, right? So when you track that, again, it's going to add up over time. So you could track time, you could track trips to the thrift store, you could track garbage can fulls, you could track dollars if you're selling things. How much money have you made? There's so many different ways to track things. And again, when we can have an objective measure of our progress, then we can feel like, oh, I am making progress. Right? But if you're just kind of looking around at your spaces, you may or may not see the progress. It's hard to see if you're in the middle of a project. And so if you give yourself a way to keep track, you're going to be way more motivated. This is kind of like how you may have tracked the height of your kids over time, right? That is so much fun to see how they grow. You're not going to see them grow every single day, right? You're not going to tell that, oh, they're bigger today than they were on Tuesday. But if you look at, over the years, they were this tall at age 4, and then at age 5, they grew that much. That is really, really exciting and really just enjoyable to see the progress there. And that's what happens when we are tracking our decluttering progress. And you want to figure out what way works best for you. What do you want to track? And what's going to be exciting and enjoyable for you? And keep track of that over time. Really, really motivating. All right, number 6. Plan a reward or a celebration. And we do this all the time inside the membership, right? We are enjoying and celebrating. We're celebrating the little wins, and then we're celebrating the big ones along the way. But you can do this too, right? If you're not a member, just plan something for when you do reach that goal, and make sure that you don't give it to yourself too soon, right? You want to finish, you want to push through and finish, but plan some kind of a reward. And ideally it's related to the thing that you're doing. So maybe you're cleaning out that spare room, and it's because you want to make it into a reading room. Maybe you buy yourself a really amazing chair to go in that room. Or, maybe you buy yourself a couple books that you've been really excited about and looking forward to. You can link it to the project that you're working on. And then every time you think, well, I really don't feel like it, I kind of don't want to, you can remind yourself, but this is what we're working toward. And then you get up and go. All right. Number 7 is not necessarily tied to motivation, but it's a way to require less motivation. And that is to build habits and raise your standards. If you have habits in place, then you don't have to rely on motivation nearly as much. Think about, let's say, brushing your teeth. Nobody really has to get motivated to brush their teeth, right? We just do it. We're like, yeah, I don't know. I don't even think about it. It's just a habit. You can do it almost unconsciously. You're not thinking about it. You're not, psyching yourself up for it. You just do it. And the same thing can happen when you declutter. I do this all the time. I am constantly on the lookout for things that I don't need. What can I get rid of? Oh, can that go in the trash? Can that go in the recycle? Should I put it in the donation pile? All the time. It is an unconscious, automatic habit for me to be looking for things that can leave my house, always. And so then I don't have to get motivated because I'm just doing it habitually. Very, very effective way of using habits so that you require less energy to do the same kind of task. All right, the next one is a little bit negative, but it can be very, very effective. And if you've experienced this, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. And what it is to experience a loss, right? So if you have been through something difficult, maybe you suffered because of the clutter, maybe you tripped and fell, right? This happens all the time, right? Someone will say, you know what? I kind of learned my lesson. I had clutter and I had been stepping around it and, or walking around it, and I tripped and fell and I got hurt. And so that is a lesson to me that I am not going to do that anymore. And the next time I think I don't really feel like putting these things away, I really don't feel like cleaning this up, I'll remember, oh my gosh, I don't want to break a bone or, get a concussion again, right? So that learning a lesson, that experiencing a loss, it's negative reinforcement, but it's very effective because you're like, I don't want that to happen again, right? This also happens when people end up decluttering. Let's say they lose a loved one. They lose a parent, grandparent, family friend, and they are in charge of emptying out that person's home or like getting rid of their belongings, right? And that's a big job. Well, that is tremendous motivation for people to declutter their own things because they think, you know what, I don't want to do that to my kids. I don't want to leave this behind for my loved ones. When I do pass away, all of us are going to go, right? No one gets out of here alive. And so someone is going to have to go through your things. And what kind of a process do you want to make that for that person? Do you want to make that easy? Do you want them to be able to remember you fondly? Or do you want them to be like stuck with your stuff? Right? When we are unmotivated to declutter and we're thinking, gosh, I really love all these things, or I just don't feel like it, we can think, you know what? Yeah, but I don't want to leave this for my loved one to go through. When I die, I want them to be able to focus in on, their memories of me and not having to deal with a bunch of stuff. Right? So again, not a very happy one, not a happy reason, but it can be very powerful. My last technique here for you is to focus on others. And I love this one so much. I see this happen over and over again in our community, right? So somebody has something maybe that they really, really, they treasure, right? Maybe it's a special heirloom or it's, handmade baby blanket or something like that, right? Something very special. And they're thinking, I never want to let this go. But they're also decluttering and they're thinking, I don't have room for it. It's really not the right thing for me to hang on to. When they start thinking, who needs this? Who could use this? All of a sudden, they get excited. And it takes a little bit more time, certainly, and not everything can be donated. But if you can find someone who wants that baby blanket or that rocking chair or, that china, those dishes, whatever it is, you find someone who wants that, who can use it, someone in need, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to give it away. And also maybe a little bit of you is still a little bit sad, but you're like, you know what? This person's going to be able to love this and use this and appreciate this. And so I feel good about passing it on. A really powerful way to get motivated and to get some closure, but really just to say, you know what? It's okay for me to let this thing go because it's going to go on and it's going to serve someone else. And I can feel good about that. Really, really wonderful and powerful way to get motivated to declutter. All right. So those are all the ways that I have for you today. What I want to offer you though, is the fact that we don't have to be motivated to declutter, right? If we are, it's amazing. If we're not feeling it, we can do hard things anyway. And the thing about motivation is frequently when you get in motion, when you get up and you get busy, right? When you do the thing that you plan to do, especially if you're not, if you give yourself like a short window to do it and you don't have to work all day, when you get moving, frequently you will discover that the motivation shows up after you are in motion, which is pretty cool. So if you realize this, you think, I don't feel like it, but it's okay, because maybe that motivation is just on the other side of me doing some work, then we realize, okay, we don't have to be motivated. What we do have to be, however, is determined. And that is what I want to leave you with. I want you to be determined to declutter no matter what. You and I both know that it will serve you very well. It is highly worthwhile, and we always feel better after we've done it. That's what I have for you today, everyone. I'll see you next week.
That's all we have for you today. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review. It would really help us to get the word out. And if you'd like to continue your decluttering journey with us, find us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube at Decluttering Club, or on our website at thedeclutteringclub.com.